This conference will now be recorded.
So, welcome back everyone. In the previous slide, we just touched upon few of the things related to how do you document the requirements in a typical agile project. We looked into what is a user story and how do you drill down the requirements from the level of epics to the features and to the user stories. We looked into it with examples because that is one of the core things that you need to know as a business analyst. Now, if we really get into understanding Agile as a whole, that will take many number of sessions, and in fact, I have a different course altogether for it. But that will be lot more time consuming to get into. So we will look only at the major things. So within Agile, there are multiple frameworks. We are looking into Scrum, as I mentioned in the earlier one, and within Scrum, let's look at uh, two major concepts. One is about the Scrum ceremonies, and the other one is about the Scrum rules. Okay, so we'll just briefly touch upon it to understand what a business analyst done in such a typical setup of an agile Scrum based project. Okay, so first thing is Scrum ceremonies. Might seem like a novel concept, like okay, there's something called ceremony, some celebration. No, it's not like that. So ceremonies are nothing but events. If someone says in an interview, if you're asked what is Scrum events, you can mention the very four things which I'm going to mention over here. Okay, so first of these ceremonies is known as sprint planning. Okay, so what happens in sprint planning? As the name says, you're going to plan the sprint. Now your question could be, what is a sprint, right? Whenever we talk about term like agile or sprint, if you go at the typical meaning of it, forget about IT parlance and all. Typical meaning of agile is what? If you search in a dictionary, it says something like very fast, very quick, something like that is called an agile. So here in this framework, you use, uh, you know, you try to make things get done in a quicker fashion when compared to waterfall, and that's the reason the name has come up. Sprint again, usually it is used as an opposite to a marathon. Sprint is a short-term thing, while marathon is a 40-kilometer run. Okay, so again, sprint here, that is how it is mentioned in the typical language. But when it comes to IT, okay, so here sprint is nothing but typically, I'm not saying always, but typically a sprint would be a 2 week duration. Okay, so in 2 weeks, how many working days would be there? 10 days, right? So within these 10 days, typically whatever things can be documented and developed, tested and presented in such a way that you can demo or you can provide a review of it to either the business analyst or either to the product owner or either to the stakeholders. It depends again. Okay, so that would be referred to as sprint. Now what do you do? How do you plan? What can be covered in these 2 weeks? That will be planned initially on day zero or day one of that particular sprint. Okay, that particular meeting, that particular event is referred to as sprint planning. Now, what is your work as a business analyst? So your work as a business analyst is to keep the requirements documented properly before even stepping into that particular meeting, so that in that meeting you're going to say that okay, these are the user stories which we have in our plan right now, and we need to focus on getting these things developed in this particular 10 days of time. Okay, again, there is something called sprint goal and all. We Let's not get into all of those things. So sprint planning is nothing but understanding that there should be a set of requirements which are already documented in the format of user stories. You will take them to the development team, means developers and testers, and discuss along with them like what can be picked up, what cannot be picked up, and some amount of effort estimation and all of those things happen in the this particular discussion, which is known as the sprint planning. So, okay, on day zero or day one of the sprint, you have done your sprint planning, and the team has discussed and said that, okay, Ranjit, we think these are the 5 user stories which we can pick up and we can completely deliver by the end of this sprint. So that decision has been reached in the sprint planning. From day two onwards, what happens? The team has to obviously work on getting that user stories developed and tested, right? So on a daily basis, how about having a quick meeting of around 15 minutes max, 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that. If we can have a quick meeting, usually at the starting of the day, wherein everyone says that yes, you know what, today I have worked on, yesterday I worked on these things, and today I'm going to work on these things, and I don't think there are any blockers for me. I can proceed with my development work. And second person says, I was supposed to do the testing, right? So I've created the test cases and I'm okay with it, but you know what, I have a blocker because I'm not having access to so and so tool. So this sort of discussion should happen in the presence of the total team, and that should happen on a daily basis. This is what is referred to as a daily stand-up meeting. Okay, the reason why it's called a stand-up meeting and all those things, let's not get into it. There are, of course, proper understanding of all those things. Okay, but the purpose of daily stand-up meeting, I'm telling you, usually it happens at the beginning of the day to understand from every team member what they have worked upon in the day before, that particular day, and what are they doing or planning to complete on that particular day, and if they have any issues or impediments or blockers in their work, that can be highlighted. This is the purpose of your daily stand-up meeting, which is your second scrum ceremony. Then you have something called as a sprint review. So okay, on day 0 or day 1 you did your sprint planning, and then day 2 to day 9 or day 10 you have completely worked on it, the entire team has worked on it and developed and tested. Then what should happen? On the final day, there should be a review, right? This is also known as a sprint demo. So here, your development and testing should happen in such a way that if the actual stakeholders will say that, we want to take a look at it, you should be able to present it to them and have a demo of it done. That is the expectation. It may or may not happen. That's a different case altogether. But the expectation is whatever you have developed in that 10 days of time, 10 working days, that should be of such a good quality and such a proper deliverable piece that you can have a review of it with the stakeholders, and that happens in the sprint review meeting. So this is your third ceremony. Okay, now you tell me, you have planned as a team and you have developed and tested, and then you have done the review. Then that is done, right? Like, what else is supposed to be done in a particular sprint? Planning is done, development is done, testing is done, demo is done. Then what is this fourth event or fourth scrum ceremony that is left out? Okay, let me tell you, it's called as a retrospective. So what is the meaning of retrospective? Again, if you see, it is nothing but looking back. Means taking a sort of look at what has been already worked upon in the sprint just ended. Your sprint review meeting has got over and you're done with that particular sprint. Now, the team will again have a quick meeting to discuss about, okay, in the last 10 days, these are the things which we have worked upon, and these are the things which we were able to really do it very well. Maybe there was a good amount of coordination, maybe the documentation was so clear and crisp that the things could be easily understood. Maybe, some of the team members had really gone beyond their usual work and helped the other team members, or, all these positive things. Negative things can be that there were a lot of last minute things that came up, or requirements changed midway of the sprint, or the stakeholders came up with scrapping one of the major thing which was developed, anything. So all these positive things which happened in the sprint, the negative things which happened in the sprint, those things will be discussed, based on which you can actually analyze as a team. You can analyze and come up with some points saying that, okay, from next sprint onwards, let's follow these 1, 2, 3, 4 points so that we will be able to work together as a team in a much better fashion. That sort of discussion must happen at the end of every sprint. And that ceremony or that event is referred to as the sprint retrospective. Okay, I hope things are clear. We're not getting into the details because it's not required. As a BA, what would you do here is you would be part of the discussion with the team, and maybe you make note of all the things, and you make sure that the team really follows those things. I mean, it could be the Scrum Master's work, but as a BA, if there are any findings that came out of the retrospective meeting, make sure that you're following it also. So that will be the purpose of your retrospective meeting. Then let's talk about the roles. Okay. Now, when we talk about the Scrum roles, and what are the Scrum roles? It's nothing but what are the role when you talk about the total team that is working in this particular Scrum framework based Agile project. What are the different roles in it? When we get into these, there are three roles actually. If I ask you guys to guess it, you might come up with different guesses, but I can be damn sure that unless and until you have really worked in a project, you cannot come with the exact list which is mentioned as part of the Scrum roles. The reason being the naming of the roles and the work is slightly different from what we usually see in a typical project. So there's nothing called as a manager, there's nothing called as a tester, there's nothing called as a designer. These are not the terms. We have three roles as per the Scrum policy. The first one is known as a product owner. So product owner will be the person who would be responsible to ensure that all the requirements are getting delivered properly. What is this, Ranjit? Is that not what a business analyst does? If that is your question, so I can tell you that, again, depending on the project, sometimes you'll have a specific person called as a product owner, and there'll be another person called as a business analyst within a team, or both of these roles, being a business analyst as well as a product owner, may be done by one person, and that person would be referred to as a PO, as a product owner. So it keeps depending based on the project. You'll get to know, once you get into a project, you'll get to know if along with you there is any other person who would be leading or playing the role of a PO. So there is a difference between that of a pure product owner versus a product owner plus business analyst role and all. Uh, let's not get into those things. Let's understand that as a business analyst, you can also be a product owner if there is no other specific business analyst within the project. That's one role. The second thing is a scrum master. Okay, a scrum master's major work would be to ensure the entire team is following the scrum principles. What are the scrum principles? Again, is the documentation being maintained well? Is the team really working in a agile format? Uh, is the team collaboration happening very well? Are all the scrum ceremonies happening properly? Are they following the real, that time bound limits based on for every ceremony? Is that being followed? Is there proper understanding among the team members? All these things have to be ensured by a person that would be the scrum master. Okay, in fact, there's something called as an agile manifesto, there's something called as 12 agile principles. So a scrum master's role is to ensure that the team is following all of these things, because at the end, only when all of these things are followed, work happens in an efficient manner. Okay, the final thing is, of course, the development team. When we say development team in a Scrum project, it is not just the developers, but the entire team, which is going to work in developing that solution, ensuring it is good. That would be referred to as a development team. So that would include your UI UX designers, it will include your developers, it will include your testers. If there's a support team, that would be part of it. So all of these people who are part of that technical solutioning part of the work in a project, that would be referred to as a development team. Okay, so in short, we have looked into what are scrum ceremonies and scrum roles. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Apart from this, there are just few more things which I think we need to look into. Again, from a business analyst role perspective, we have to look into what is a definition of none, and what is product backlog, and what is backlog grooming. I think maybe a couple of other such small concepts. So we'll try to cover that in the next segment. Okay. So we'll close this one here. Thanks everyone.